I'm Meghan Keaney Anderson. I run marketing for Jasper, which is an AI platform. And I want to basically put a lot of this into context for you. It's been a wild 6 months or so, wouldn't you say? It's a lot going on. I want to give you kind of a way to how I think about this moment in time, and then also some very practical things that you can take away in terms of how you want to adjust as company leaders, as marketing leaders within your own organizations. So let me just start with this. Years ago, I was in the backseat of a Lyft. I was headed off to an appointment somewhere. I was trying to look my best. It was before my whole wardrobe had gotten taken over by yoga pants. And I was absorbed in my phone, as people typically are. And the driver, he was a nice guy. He turned around and he said, "Hey, how are you?" And I gave the universal modern response, which was, "Good, busy." And then he said something that I'll never forget. He said, for all of our smarts, for all of our wealth, the one thing that we will never be able to do is add even one more second to the end of our days. Time has us beat. And it kind of got to me that day, right? It really sort of shook me out of whatever schedule and rush I was in. Made me think about our powerlessness. Tiny speck in the universe stuff. We've all had that moment. Because he was right, He was right. Well, mostly. He was right, except that during a handful of moments over the course of human history, we've had these episodes, often triggered by some form of technology, that have sparked major leaps forward in our collective capacity. Advancements that give us seconds, hours, days, even weeks back in our lives. Let's call them expansion events. And if we're smart, we pour that money and that time back into something meaningful. So one of my favorite technologists is this guy named Clay Shirky. Anybody know Clay Shirky? He wrote a lot about Web 2.0 and in particular Wikipedia. And, we take Wikipedia for granted now, right? But when it came about, the ability to collaborate and contribute to the digital world around us brought on this whole new upwelling of knowledge. In 2010, right around the time that Wikipedia passed 100 million hours of content contributed, he said that we are living through the largest expansion in expressive capability in human history. The largest in human history. And he was right. Well, until now. These are the turning points that have defined modern business. The internet removed barriers to start a business. We all experienced that one. Web 2 removed barriers to connection. Mobile removed barriers to purchase. The cloud removed barriers to collaboration. And today, all around us, generative AI is removing barriers to creation. In the last year, 15,103,281,925 words were written with AI using Jasper. Just Jasper. Not talking about ChatGPT, not talking about any other tool. Just Jasper. Just 1 year. Do any of you know how many words are on all of the English language articles on Clay Shirky's Wikipedia since its inception? Any guesses? 4.2 billion. So ladies and gentlemen, we are lapping ourselves and we are doing it exponentially. So why does that matter? Is this some sort of ego contest to see how many words we can write in a given year? No. It matters because, as Octavia says, the goal of writing is to process, to think, to persist until we hit upon something great. And that takes words. In fact, I'd argue that the only thing that has ever really held our best ideas back has been our inability to convey them well and at scale. That and the time back to clear our heads and come up with more. So, what does all of this mean for marketing and growth? I will get out of the clouds now and I'm going to bring it down. Look, AI is undoubtedly a transformational technology. But transformational technologies require transformations in strategy to really take hold. We have to figure out how to switch our strategies and our teams and our approaches. That's why we're here. So, before I go on, maybe just like a quick word to any marketers in the room. If you're not a marketer, maybe you could pass this on to the marketers on your team. We cannot mess this up. Too often in marketing, we rush, we sprint to the lowest bar whenever we see a new technology or a new approach. We see what it makes easier, not what it makes possible. Seeing some of you nod your heads, you've been in that moment. And look, there are factors here, of course. I'm not knocking on marketers, I am one. There's immense pressure to do things faster and cheaper or to gamify it to such an extent that we extract every last ounce of value out of it. Scorched earth marketing. It happens, right? I'll give you a few examples. Let's talk about social media. Social media meant that for the first time ever, we did not have to be muted passengers in the flow of global information. We could contribute, we could connect, we could report. And incredible things sprung out of this participatory culture. Being witness to underreported stories, connecting across boundaries, across pandemics, incredible things. And also some truly exceptional marketing. Social paved the way for things like Adobe's Perspectives campaign, a campaign which encouraged countless individuals and creators to share their work from the platform over the course of years on social channels. This campaign is still going today, even though nobody at Adobe is working on it. That's how powerful it was. Social created online communities of peer learning, things like this. The fact that you all can tweet right now about what I'm saying, hopefully you do. Really, the entire field of community management sprung out of social media. And then there was that time during the pandemic when everyone was bored out of their minds. And this guy, Josh Swain, reached out to every other Josh Swain that he could find on Facebook Messenger. And they all agreed to meet in a field in Nebraska to have the world's largest pool noodle fight to crown the king of the Joshes. Social did this. Facebook did this. And finally, they dubbed this tiny kid king of the Joshes. And now I know that last one wasn't marketing, but I can't know about a story like that and not tell an audience like this, so I had to put that in there. And the point is that social media can be awesome. And it was an expansion event for marketing. But it can also lead marketers to do stuff like this. Now look, I don't have anything against galaxy lights or seizing opportunities for that matter, but this is not living up to the promise of social media. This is scorched earth marketing. I want to talk about mobile phones, another expansion event for marketing. Mobile phones led to the ability to access information anywhere. It dramatically changed buying behavior. It advanced the field of thinking when it came to accessibility and responsiveness and UX design. Think about all of the jobs that erupted out of this expansion moment. It led to the growth of podcasts as people found new moments in the day to consume content. But it also led to this, just utter insanity. Can you just raise your hand for me for a moment if you have some sort of a marketing SMS text message on your phone right now? Yeah. Don't you wish we could just, by the sheer willpower, make them all go away? This is not great marketing. This is lazy. The point here is not to bash on marketers. We are smart and lovely and adorable people. The point is to save as many marketers as possible from kind of falling into the same old trappings that we've gotten us nowhere in the past. AI is going to make us faster. We need to also make sure that it makes us better. You guys with me on that? Better because we can reinvest the time and the money that we save back into the work to elevate it. Wouldn't that be something? So we've reached a turning point in marketing. And I'd argue that this is bigger than social, bigger than mobile. This is on the scale of the internet itself. And I know that sounds grandiose, but I tell it to you objectively. We need to change our approach. Transformational technology requires transformations in strategy. For AI to reach its potential, for all of us to reach our potential, we need to make a shift here. So I want to talk about content strategy for a moment. Most marketers know what good content looks like. It looks something like this, right? But it can't look something like this because we've got 3 blogs, a newsletter, a podcast episode, and a zillion Twitter threads to respond to and create by Friday. So more often, it looks like this, where you put all of their time into the thing that is the most time intensive, the composition. And the thing is, like, when you shortchange ideation, you end up with shallower content. When you shortchange research, you end up with shallower content. When you shortchange editing, you let that shallow content through. And when you shortchange distribution, you get less and less value out of every hour that you've put in. The promise of AI-assisted content strategies is that it brings that center bar down. It gives you that time back. And that's time that can be reinvested into, the parts of the content strategy that we've long abandoned. But this doesn't just happen. Odds are that if you don't make any shifts in strategy and you just kind of use AI, this time will just go back into sort of the creating more shallow content and losing it in other ways. We have to be intentional about this shift. We can't just plug AI in and change nothing about the way that we operate our teams. One of the most meaningful things you can do is to think about the composition of your team, because there is power in the way that we structure our teams and the way we invest their focus. I'm going to take a step back. Long before AI was really as massively adopted as it is today, the year is 2015. Uptown Funk was at the top of the Billboard hits, so just get that beat in your head for a minute. That's the time we're talking about. And I was working at HubSpot long before Jasper. And our blog, I was running our blog, and it was just cranking content. We would do, 2, 3, sometimes 4 posts a day. And it made sense, right? Because every piece of content was like a door and a pathway back to our site. And we were in a race to get as much traffic as we could. But we were producing so much content that Rand Fishkin, who was at SEO Moz at the time, he essentially did a wellness check on the content team at HubSpot. Reached out on Twitter and said, 10 posts a day? Are you guys okay? Do I need to send help? And, one of our bloggers at the time was a woman named Pam Vaughn, who's still at HubSpot, does incredible things. And she made a radical suggestion, which was, have we tried less content? What if we just turned it down a bit? And when I say it was an informed suggestion, it really was, because she had actually looked at the data. And what she found was that in a given month, 92% of the leads that we were going to get that month and 76% of the views were coming from old content. Stuff that was written a month ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, right? That's a compounding nature of content. Now, the problem is 100% of our writers on the blog, and we had a lot of them, were focused on new content. No one on old, everyone on new. There's a structural imbalance to what was actually driving revenue for our company. And so she made the suggestion, what if we took 2 bloggers and refocus them on the past, had them go optimize old content, update it with new stats, fix the conversion points, all of that, would it make a difference? And the answer was a resounding yes. After a pilot period, we found that by focusing and optimizing the past, we had a 106% increase in organic content or traffic and double the leads. Now, look, this is very much not about AI, so why am I talking about it? I'm talking about it because structural shifts lead to strategic shifts. And we cannot think about this transformational age without also thinking about where we're putting our team's focus. This is important because the big question right now is whether AI will kill marketing roles. And I will tell you now that the answer should be no. It should be no, because when you bring this composition bar down in the middle, you should be reinvesting that time and that focus into those places we've long abandoned, into the stuff that actually makes content good. Ideation, research, editing, distribution. Unless you do this, it's not just a nice thing, I'm not just out to protect my peers' roles here. You will lose. Because in a world where everyone has endless capacity to make content, the best content is going to need to rise to the top. The pendulum of marketing always swings between limitations and breakthrough years. When I first got into marketing, advertising was the name of the game. And in that world, the biggest budget won. But then content marketing emerged as a foil to that. In that world, the biggest capacity won. Today, I'd posit, perhaps a little biased, that the best ideas will win. But the thing is, these ideas, they're not just stumbled upon. They're worked for and they're earned. So let's spend a little bit of time getting practical, talking about the ways in which we should shift our focus and our teams to improve our content and to earn those good ideas. So, ideation. When you rush idea development, you end up with kind of empty posts like this. You rehash old content, you steal from your competitors' ideas, you look for whatever they had on BuzzFeed or Reddit that day, and you don't have anything original to say. When you invest in idea development, when you have people go out and find stories, look for interviews, do research, your ideas improve. This is important because it also counters one of the biggest weaknesses of AI, which is that AI lives in patterns. It's great at putting stringing a sentence together. It's not great at finding new ideas, new territory. Humans are. And that's where we need to put our humans. When you rush research, your team uses stats from 2020. I've done it. They search for, quote on topic, or they pull from Brainy Quote or Statistica. They never read the context of that fact, and 800 other blog posts sort of say the same thing. When you've got time back, and you invest in research, your team can do original interviews and studies. You end up owning the research, and other people link back to you. That's worthwhile. And this research counters another critical flaw of AI: bias. AI is filled with bias, sort of absorbed from years of consuming content on the internet. And you need people to do original research, to talk with real subject matters, to counteract that bias and catch it before it hits print. So original research matters. Finding human stories, outside research, it's going to enhance the substance of your content, and it's going to get AI out of the echo chamber. I want to talk about editing for a moment. After, over the last few months, there's been all these articles around the hottest job in the AI era is the prompt engineer. I think that's false. I think the hottest job in the AI era is the editor. If your team does not have an editor, someone focused on ensuring that the quality of the content that you're putting out in an age of AI is up there, you will lose. For too long, we've rushed to editing. We've time squeezed it. When you invest in editing, you can fact check for misinformation, you can find the shallow spots, you can check for bias and misrepresentation, and you can make AI better. Editors will ensure that we are not just putting out content, we're putting out something worth consuming. And that doesn't just matter from a feel-good ethical standpoint, it matters for search, it matters for Google. So one of the biggest questions that we got at Jasper when we first started helping people with content acceleration was, hey, is Google going to know that I used AI and are they going to penalize me for it? The commanding answer there is no. Google has said time after time again, they do not hate AI. What they hate is junk content. And so whether you're hiring 100 content creators on a content farm or using AI to sort of mass produce content that's shallow, they'll penalize bad content. But if you're using AI to create something good, something worthwhile, something blended with human experience, that content's going to do great. All right, the final one I want to talk about is distribution. When you rush distribution, all of the kind of repackaging and subsequent content that helps drive eyes to your content, it gets skipped. SEO formatting gets skipped, work gets wasted. And it's important that we use AI to help us get more value out of the content that we're creating. One of my team members, they're a great writer, but they're not great at the technical writing that's required to sort of do markup schema. So they use AI to do all of the markup schema for their posts so that we rank in snippets, for example. That's actually not the biggest story about distribution, though. The biggest story about distribution, and I'm glad many of you are sitting down for this, is that it's all about to change. If your company right now is heavily reliant on organic traffic, as many of us are, you've got some work to do over the next year. So Google has recently announced how they're going to, and Bing as well, how they're going to be integrating AI into search engine results. And it looks a little something like this. They're going to have, certainly ads will still have top billing because it's Google, they need the ad dollars, but they're going to have conversational answers first, and then a smaller selection of organic search results below that. They're not going away, but it's going to get harder to rank in them, and they're going to be fewer and farther between. You're going to be able to search for very specific things in very conversational ways, and it's going to suggest kind of like follow-up queries for you. And importantly, if you sell a physical product, they're going to use AI agents to bring that purchase point closer to the search engine result page. Good news for purchases, bad news for traffic to your site. Finally, there's a concept called perspectives that you'll start to see percolating on Google. And this is actually a positive move to sort of give more context around the AI answers that you're going to get. They're going to be pulling in answers from reliable sources in association with the query that you got. So this also means invest in influencers, invest in forums like Reddit and TikTok, because all of those answers will get brought in to the results page. There's a lot that's going to happen in SEO over the next year. And if you don't have someone, back to the structure of your team, if you don't have someone running experiments focused on this, exploring what is going to change about the way that your marketing strategy needs to work, that's a missed opportunity. So we need to take the time that we have been spending in composition, the heaviest part of a content strategy or a marketing strategy, and reinvest that time, once spent on the content treadmill, into exploring the ways in which distribution, editing, ideation is going to need to change. And listen, lest any of this sound daunting, let me remind you all that this is what humans are good at. Everything changed when the internet first showed up. I know, I'm very excited that one day when I have grandkids, hopefully, I'm going to be able to tell them that I was there when the internet was first around. But now I can tell them also that I was there when AI first came out. And everything changed when mobile and social media came about. And guess what? We found a way forward through that change. We found growth in it. We found new skills and new purpose. This is going to be no different. You've heard a lot of grandiose terms when it comes to AI, many in my own presentation today. And while it does have the potential to be those things, it's also important to remember that this is just a tool. It's just a piece of technology, like a calculator, or Photoshop, or Excel. It doesn't come to life until it's in our hands. It doesn't become transformative until we do. AI is going to make things easier, but it's also going to require that we step up, that we change things about our current approach. Now, before I wrap up here, I want to play something for you. So if I can just get the AV team's help, hi guys, for a moment to bring up a song. All right, so what you've just heard is a song by a guy named David Cope and his computer, Emmy, or what he called experimentations in musical intelligence. Now, David Cope wrote that song in the 80s with his computer, Emmy. He was a celebrated composer for 30 years, and essentially he hit a wall somewhere in the middle of the 80s. And he trained his computer with Bach, Stravinsky, Mozart, all of the composers that he really respected, and began kind of experimenting with creating new music in their styles. This is long before OpenAI or ChatGPT. And, at first, it was kind of formulaic. But then he made kind of a breakthrough. What he realized was that the moments that made music great was when a composer sort of broke their own patterns, when they made mistakes, when they acted human, right? And so he reworked with the computer. And he got to a place where he could make music that was truly a hybrid of computer speed and human lived experience. And that's where stuff got really interesting. He was interviewed about his work, and people said, hey, will you ever go back to sort of composing on your own without a computer? And he said, to go back now would be like trying to dig a hole with your fingers after the invention of the shovel. AI, computers created this enormous upspringing for him of creativity. And the thing is, David Cope was never worried about whether his computer was going to be better than him or take his job. He saw it as the tool that it was. Nothing more, because that was enough. When combined with human ingenuity, judgment, experience, AI, as a tool, is enough. Asked in an interview about whether he thought AI would create soulless music, he said, the question isn't whether computers possess a soul, but if we do. Technology can make us better, if better is what we want to be. AI has dissolved one of the longest standing human barriers. AI has opened a door. The question is, will the absence of that weight make us better or lazier? Intellectually stronger or complacent? AI has done the impossible and given us those seconds, hours, days back in our lives. But what we do with it, as marketers, as business leaders, as technology leaders, that's on us. And the truth is, friends, that is not a technical question. That's a human one. It's about as human as it gets. Thank you so much. I'm Meghan Keaney Anderson. Hope you all have a good day.